What up, everybody? Good morning and a very happy Tuesday to you all. April 22nd, DK Show up on the air on your radio dials of 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also available online at sportstalk1051.com. Stream it up over there. Got speaking of streaming up, you can stream us on your smart devices, or the video streams up and rolling on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Instagram. Also, download the app and take it on the go. What do we have on our good old game plan for us this morning? Well, Brewers last night in game one against the Giants, falling 5-2. In the contest, Brewers jumped out to a 2-0 lead in the second, but not able to hold on and ultimately falling 5-2. Caleb Durbin with his first career home run in the contest. Also, we got to see Craig Yoho, the highly touted relief pitcher that we've been now. He made his debut yesterday too, ending down Logan Henderson after Logan having a fantastic game on Sunday, sending him back down to AAA, just making some movements, making some moves to get some fresher arms up. And Yoho coming up. Nestor Cortez also moved to the 60-day injured list. I don't think it's going to be the end of, I think we're going to see Henderson Logan here fairly soon again. But yeah, we got to see Yoho. Yoho, I love saying his name. Last night too. So, but ultimately, Brewers falling in game one of their 4-game series against the Giants. Brewers will try to rebound and pick up a win tonight with Jose Quintana on the mound for the Crew. So we'll talk some baseball. We'll talk some Brewers and such throughout this morning. Also tonight, we've got the Bucks back in action, and maybe, just maybe, we're going to see Damian Lillard tonight. Damian Lillard elevated to questionable on the latest injury report. So moving on up, Doc Rivers non-committal, which is no surprise, but fact that Damian Lillard is listed as questionable maybe bodes well for his chances to play in tonight's playoff game against the Pacers. So we'll hit that up, talk about that for a little bit, and preview game 2 tonight. Would you classify it as a pivotal, as a must-win, as a crucial game 2 for the Bucks at this point? Timberwolves, they're going to be looking for another win and heading to Minnesota with a 2-0 lead. They're also in action going up against the Lakers tonight. So, also, I mean, we got, if you're a Minnesota Wild fan, Stanley Cup playoffs continue to roll. It's going to be a late one tonight, taking on the Vegas Golden Knights. But the Wild looking to pick up their first win of the Stanley Cup playoff season 2, down 0-1 against the Golden Knights. So we've got Brewers games tonight, Twins beginning a series against the White Sox, Bucks and Timberwolves all in action too. So, I mean, for crying out loud, you got something to be listening or watching to tonight for sure. No question. Joining us at about 8:05, we're going to be chatting with another draft analyst from NFL.com. Chad Reuter will be joining us at 8:05 this morning. So if you are one that follows along with mock drafts or taking a look at prospects and such, Chad is up there on NFL.com. We've had Chad on the program before numerous times, but be good to catch up with him again this morning. You probably maybe checking out his 7-round mock drafts, kind of known for his 7-round mock drafts, going through all of those selections. So we'll catch up with Mr. Reuter coming up just under 2 hours from now and pick his brain with the upcoming draft, which is just days away, just a couple days away from the first round in Green Bay. And, well, getting ready for the draft and such, Brian Gutekunst speaking to the local media yesterday, and, of course, giving away all of his draft secrets, answering questions to the media yesterday. So, we'll go through some of the comments from from Gutey yesterday. He did. I mean, he talked about it, but he didn't really answer anything. No updates on Jair Alexander. He responded, "We'll see how the draft goes." So, I mean, kind of short and to the point. But he also said regarding his roster, Gutey said, "If we had to go play next week, I feel really good about our roster and our ability to win." And he's hoping that he can just select the best player available. You buying that? Do you think? I mean, can you buy what Gutey's selling you right now? That roster's good enough to win right now, and just kind of making the rich richer and getting the best player available and just stacking that roster. Do you think? No, dude. There's some obvious holes and obvious needs with this ball club that they have to address with this draft. So, uh, also was asked about the fifth year options because you're starting to see teams now, saying they're picking up their fifth year options on some draft picks from a few years ago. And for the Packers, that would include Devontae Wyatt and Quay Walker. Gutey says he'd like to keep both around with, quote, whatever mechanism, end quote, they use. Now, he has talked about not wanting to necessarily use the option for Quay Walker because it's pretty darn expensive, and an extension actually would be cheaper. So we'll see how that kind of goes about here in the coming days and such, but expect Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt to be sticking around at least for a couple more seasons. He also, I mean, he was kind of fairly open about Tate McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona that has been, attached to Green Bay in a sense that it seems like Green Bay really likes this wide receiver from Arizona and has spent a lot of time. And even Gutey admitted that they have spent a lot of time with McMillan this offseason. Saying we had him up for a top 30 visit, went to his private workout. So the thing is they may like him, but I think the only way that McMillan goes to Green Bay, well, I mean, a couple ways here, but I feel like regardless, they would have to trade up. To ensure that they get him, they may have to trade up in the top 10, which I don't see Green Bay doing. However, if McMillan is the guy that Green Bay is really targeting in this draft, this wide receiver from Arizona, and if, say, he falls past the Saints at 9 and then Dallas at 12, say he's still available after 12, I think, in my opinion, I think Green Bay would have to move up to at least before Seattle drafts at 18 to get him. Now, maybe that's, if this is the guy that Green Bay is really targeting and really wants to come away with, maybe they're saying, okay, if he's available after Dallas drafts at 12, because you're looking at teams that maybe potentially would draft a wide receiver in the first round. You're looking at the Saints, who has been attached with him. Dallas has been attached as a wide receiver need. But if he gets by there, I think maybe the next one would be Seattle, who, remember, they moved on from DK. They moved on from Tyler Lockett. They may want another big receiver to go with Jackson Smith-Njigba over there and their new quarterback in Sam Darnold. So Green Bay, they may be like, it's going to cost a little less to potentially move up from 23 to, say, 17 where the Bengals draft. Bengals got some needs on the defensive side, so they may be looking to maybe move back and add a little bit more picks there. So maybe something to kind of watch when we get to that first round of the draft is where McMillan kind of lands. Because if I think, now this would go to a bold prediction that we kind of threw out there yesterday. Bold prediction. If he gets past 12, I wouldn't be shocked if Green Bay moves up. If this is the guy that they are really, really kind of taking a look at. But again, Green Bay maybe wanting to move back and and add more picks. He said, I think certainly we'd love to get more picks. This is from Gutey. Whether that's where we do that or how we do that will really be dependent on the opportunities that are there and the players that are there. We're not going to pass up a really, really good player to move back unless we somehow still feel like we can get that player. So we'll see. Yeah, I'd like to have 15 every year if that would be just about right. I think there'll be opportunities, but at the same time, it's such an unpredictable thing. So we'll go over some of the other stuff from Gutey coming up here in just a little bit. But what are your thoughts, Packers fans, on McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona? Would you like to see Green Bay trade up and get him? Do you think he's, in your opinion, worthy for a trade up to go get? Do you want to see Green Bay maybe packaging stuff? Now I get it. It's easy to say, we'll throw in Jair and move it. Maybe that would work. But again, maybe a team doesn't want him. I don't know. Again, reports are that teams want Green Bay to maybe eat some of the contract or have Jair adjust some of the contract. So, I mean, that's kind of a wrench in there. It's easy to say throw Jair in there, but it takes a couple to tango with that. I mean, if they could package maybe 23 and Jair to move up to 17, would you be good with that? If that's what it would take, or do you want a little something else in return? Maybe another late pick with there. I don't know, but just keeping it general. If McMillan is the guy and he gets past 12, would you be good with Green Bay maybe trading with Cincinnati at 17 to go get McMillan before Seattle's on the clock? And are you buying what Gutey says about his roster, where he feels really good right now that if they had to go play next week, that his roster, he feels really, really confident in it, and that they're at a spot where they can just hopefully draft the best available. I always chuckle at that phrase, best available. Yeah, that's what everybody wants, but there's also a little caveat to it all, right? I mean, if the best available is a quarterback, they're not going to get a quarterback. So, but plenty of draft talk coming up here throughout this week. Today, it is a Toyson Ford Grind My Gears Tuesday. So what is grinding your gears? You can let us know by hitting us up with a text on that Shoe Doctor's bullpen line at 715-830-1912, or hit me up on the socials, or comment on the video streams. Whatever is the easiest way for you to do that. What's grinding your gears? Get it off your chest and let us know. We'll talk with RJ Cardinal coming up in a couple hours from now. We'll talk some Badgers with him, talk a little Badger football, more transfer portal stuff, injuries and that. So we'll talk a little Badger football and maybe take a final look at some of the Badger prospects. I know we kind of touched on it a little bit last week with RJ, but heading into the draft, you got Hunter Wohler, Nelson, and such, potentially where they could be selected and that in the upcoming draft here. So we'll talk some Badgers with Mr. Cardinal in just a little bit. So fully loaded up here this morning. Let's jump right into it, shall we? All right. What else is on your mind? Let me know. Hit me up with those texts or those tweets or those Facebook messages or those comments on the video stream. We'll take our first break here this morning and get her rolling. All right. We got some Brewers chats. Brewers falling in game 1 of a 4-game series. Game 2 tonight. Bucks game 2 tonight. The return of Dame potentially. And then some Packers draft talk. Spring's here, and that means turkey hunting season. Reminder, Period B begins tomorrow if they're out there, all right? Just a little PSA note there. But you got your tags, you know the dates, you're heading out to the woods. Well, what's missing? Maybe a new turkey shotgun, maybe some extra shells. It's time to hit up our good friends at Tilden Gun. Locally owned and operated, Tilden Gun has the best selection of firearms in the area and all at the best prices in the area. Their expert staff will help you find that hunting firearm that you want and that fits in your price range. And if you're not a turkey hunter, but maybe you're in the market for a new deer rifle or such, hey, they can help you find that too. And if you have a little left over from that tax return this season, you can purchase something for yourself this year. So give them a visit today at tildengun.com, or you can check out their shop located at 12427 90th Avenue in Chippewa Falls. Also, don't forget to sign up for the 5th annual Casper Classic being held at Lake Hallie Golf Course this year. Everything else is the same. 2-person teams, $90, 9 holes, includes your meal, includes some drink tickets, includes the cart, all that good stuff. If you can't golf, but you're interested in helping out, maybe doing a hole sponsor, donating a raffle prize, reach out because all proceeds go to help fund Backyard Dreams. And right now, just for a couple more days here, we want to help out a couple of kiddos through Backyard Dreams. Go to Jane Reed's football camp in Chippewa Falls this summer, and Aaron Jones is also having a football camp in Eau Claire, one-day camps in July. So we want to send a kiddo to the Jane Reed one, and we want to send a kiddo to the Aaron Jones one. If you know of a child, you can nominate them by going to sportstalk1051.com, clicking on the Fan Cave tab, scrolling all the way down to the bottom, and you'll see the icons there. And while you're at the website, you can sign up for your 2-person team for the 5th annual Casper Classic being held at gorgeous Lake Hallie Golf Course this season. All right, we've got Jeremy saying, Packers draft that receiver out of Arizona. I'd be fine with it, but I would rather have them draft Luther Burden out of Missouri. So, couple more texts saying not buying what Gutey is selling about the roster. I get what he was saying, though. I think they've got a good group, but still missing a couple of pieces. That is from Ben on our texting line this morning. And Aaron also saying, I agree with Gutey for the most part, but still think that they're maybe a couple pieces away from actually competing for a Super Bowl championship. Keep those coming. All right. We'll get to some more Gutey comments here in just a skosh. All right. In just a little bit here, but let's lead it off. Just kind of quickly recapping Brewers last night because it was a late game for the Crew, and it's going to be another late contest tonight for the Brewers. So last night, 5-2 loss by the Brewers at the hands of the Giants. Brewers jumped out to a 2-0 lead through 2, but it was split in half at the bottom portion of that frame, and then Giants tacking on a run each in the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th to get that victory. Grant Anderson charged with the loss for the Brewers. Quinn Priester pitching 4 innings, giving up 4 hits, 2 earned runs, walking 4, did strike out 3. His season ERA is still at a 1.93 ERA. Craig Yoho making his major league debut. His final line going 1 inning, giving up a hit, earned run, 1 walk, 1 K. Maybe you've heard about Craig Yoho for a while now, but maybe not too familiar with what he has and such. If you haven't seen him pitch, if you don't know a whole lot about him, dude has a nasty changeup. That's kind of what he's been known for. I mean, last year in the minors, he posted a .94 ERA and struck out 101 batters in just under 58 innings. So far this year in AAA too, I mean, he was off to an amazingly hot start. So it was just a matter of time before he was going to be called up here. But he's got a mid-90s sinker, a cutter, and a sweeper. But his changeup, you're talking like high 70s. That's how ridiculous he can pull back the string. Pull that ball back. It's again, if you haven't seen highlights or clips of it, go YouTube it or go up there and such. So I think we're going to see Craig Yoho with the ball club here for a while. Hopefully he can, dominate at the major league level like he like he has been at the AAA level for a while now. So, but last night you look at that game, and Jackson Churio, he made that diving catch in right field with the bases loaded. And you had a couple other plays, but Pat Murphy after the game talking about the defensive miscues overall. So I mean, there was a couple good plays in that, but there was also some defensive miscues from that game that resulted in some runs and such. And Pat Murphy after the game saying you can't plan on winning games if you don't play solid defense. Which, I mean, we know the Brewers want to pride themselves on defense. What, the last couple of years, winning the Gold Glove for overall defensive play. So, you had a couple of defensive web gems, but there were about a couple of other, shall we say, fumbles or miscues in the game last night. So, but Yoho, you look at the line and such. You probably you're allowed to run, that wasn't completely dominating or anything like that. But again, if you were kind of watching the game, or maybe since it was late, you go back and look at the highlights and such, or listen to Pat Murphy talk afterwards, and there was a shallow hit or a shallow hit to center field where Murphy believed he could have been out easily had Garrett Mitchell got the ball out of his glove cleanly and such. So maybe that run isn't allowed there. So it's just the small stuff that maybe doesn't show up in the box score, that doesn't tell the whole story of everything out there. But Durbin getting his first career home run last night too. Positive note for him. But yesterday we spent a lot of time talking about the youth and the pitching and such. And I know, you see the Logan Henderson getting sent down after his fantastic start on Sunday. He's going to be back at some point this year. So I hope, Brewers fans aren't like saying WTF, what's going on here? Like what after that, why is he saying it's baseball? Okay. You're bringing in other arms. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be call-ups. There's going to be send-downs. You're managing your bullpen. You're managing your roster and this stuff, and you're trying to get other dudes up there and such. And with Tobias Myers coming back here soon at the later end of this week, you're trying to find maybe some more bullpen arms. Logan Henderson's going to be back with this ball club at some point this year. I fully believe that he's going to be back. But again, Yoho is another example of one of these younger pitchers that you have to be really excited about for the future for this Brewers pitching staff, from the starters to the bullpen. I really believe that. That's Logan Henderson. That's Craig Yoho. That's Jacob Mizorowski, who I think we're still going to see at some point this year. It's Tobias Myers. It's Robert Gasser when he comes back from that injury. I mean, there's so many guys to be really excited about for the future of this pitching group. And as long as Chris Hook stays around and has his ability to mold these guys, I think if you're a Brewers fan, you should feel pretty excited about the future with these guys. But I think right now too, with this pitching staff, you have an interesting blend now that guys are starting to get a little bit healthier and starting to get back, right? We're going to see Tobias Myers here in a couple days. But you've got an interesting mixture of young guys mixed in with some veterans. And one of those veterans is going to be Quintana, who we're going to see tonight on the mound. Quintana, in his first couple games with the Brewers, 2-0 with a sub-1 ERA, 0.71. Jordan Hicks is going to be on the mound for the Giants, who's 1-2 so far this year with a 6.04 ERA. Obviously, you got a couple of dudes on the Giants lineup that do have a bit of experience going up against Quintana. One of them is Willy Adames, just because of his time with the Brewers and such. And Willy Adames has actually been successful against Jose Quintana. In 14 career at-bats, he's got a home run, but he's hitting .357 with a 1.114 OPS against him. Flores, 10 at-bats, 200 career batting average. Chapman, 10 at-bats, just a 100 career batting average. But Flores also has an 873 OPS against him. Then on the flip side with Jordan Hicks, Hicks is coming off of back-to-back losses where back on the 12th, it was against the Yankees. He went 4 innings, giving up 8 hits, 7 earned runs. And then on the 17th against the Phillies, where he went 7 innings, giving up 5 earned runs in that contest. And you look at the lineups and you got, I mean, there's a lot of Brewers here with probably a couple games worth of experience. Yelich has 5 career at-bats against him, 3 RBIs, and he's hitting 400 with a 1.171 OPS. Other than that, you have Hoskins, who's got 6 career at-bats against him, a couple RBIs, but just hitting 167 with a 500 OPS. Everybody else, you're talking about a couple at-bats. Contreras actually has 4 at-bats, and he's 0 for everything against him. So that's a little bit of a preview with the pitching matchups for tonight's game. But looking for a bounce-back performance, and with Quintana on the mound, I mean, defense has to be better because you're going to get a lot of ground balls, and you're going to get some double play opportunities with Quintana on the mound if you've got base runners on there. So defense better be up to snuff for tonight's game for the Brewers. But I'm looking for a bounce-back W from this ball club with one of their veterans on the mound. And then you got Freddie Peralta tomorrow. And then you got Tobias Myers. All right. These next 3 games, I think, are very winnable for the Brewers, considering who they've got going out on the mound and starting for their ball club. But Bucks-wise, switching gears here just a little bit before we got to take a quick break here. But we've got NBA playoffs picking back up tonight for the Bucks, and it sure kind of looks like that we're going to see Dame. It's nothing's official. And Doc Rivers, after practice yesterday, said he didn't know if Lillard would be available, but said he looked good, said he's close, looks great to me. But then the injury report came out, and Damian Lillard was listed as questionable. So, I mean, that's an elevation up. He's moved on up. And I think that bodes well for Dame to play tonight. I don't know if he's going to be on a minute restriction or what the plan will be if Damian Lillard does play tonight. But boy, that would be a huge boost for this ball club if they can get Dame back on the court. And I hope yeah, part of me too though is, we got this after game 1, you see Dame and Tyrese Halliburton doing a little trash talking in between play on the game on Saturday. So I want that Dame and Tyrese matchup in this thing. I want these two to go at it and have a little bit of a rivalry going between the two. I hope we get Dame back for this, because I think this series is going to get a little bit more chippier. I think we're going to get a little bit more chippier going forward. And I'm all about it as long as the Bucks come out on top. I'm all about rivalries. I'm all about a little bit of chippiness here. And I did see I did see some of with that video with Dame and Halliburton doing a little trash talking and such. I did see some people out there kind of I don't know if it's lip reading or trying to find the audio and such, but there's stuff I can't say on the air. But apparently one of them says that Dame says, "We suck. We're going to see about that, and I'll beat your you-know-what." Halliburton, Pascal Siakam saying, "Why is he talking? I can't say the other stuff." Then Halliburton told Siakam it's time to get them out of here, but in other words and such. So, yeah, got a little trash talking going back and forth, and I think tonight's game, we're going to see some chippiness. We're going to really see some chippiness tonight. And if Dame is playing, I don't know why, but I've got this feeling that Dame is going to go off, and we're going to see some Dame time tonight. That's maybe it's me being a little bit of a homer in that aspect, but I feel like we're going to see Dame just go off tonight if he's on that court and put up a career game. All right, let's take a quick break here. We'll wrap up the first hour. Go through some of the comments from Gutey's presser yesterday. You buying what he's telling you, Packers fans? We'll go through that coming up in just a little bit. You know what season it is? It's pothole season, man. And potholes mean loose debris on the road that kick up and hit your windshield, leaving a lovely crack in that windshield. So now what? It's simple. Give a call to the experts at Post Glass and Mirror, where their specialists will quickly repair chips and cracks to your windshield. You can trust the fine folks at Post Glass and Mirror in Chippewa Falls to get you back to safe driving by repairing that cracked windshield. Give them a call today at 715-229-3754. Or you can visit them online at postglassandmirror.com. Postglass and Mirror also are partners for our 715 Fan Speaks poll question, which last night's, don't forget to follow along on the Sports Talk and the Sports Talk Facebook pages and the X pages. Sports Talk. See, we got an X rock station, so that's what confuses me all the time when I say X. That's why I don't like to say X. I know it's X, but it's still Twitter to me. But follow along on the Sports Talk Facebook pages and the Sports Talk X pages /Twitter to vote in the daily 715 Speaks poll questions. And last night, because we post them up at night, last night we asked fans in the 715, with the first round just a couple days away, what do you think the Packers are going to do with their first round pick? When we gave you three options: one, stand pat at 23, move up in the draft, or trade back and accumulate more picks. Well, based off the votes counted up between Facebook and X/Twitter, 52% of you said that you thought the Packers would stay at number 23. 52% of you said that. 41% said that you thought the Packers would move down or move back in the draft and maybe accumulate some more picks. And then 7% of the fans thought they would try to move up in the draft. And I feel like if Green Bay is really gung-ho about McMillan, the big wide receiver from Arizona, they would have to move up to get him. Now, this could just be smoke and mirrors with this whole thing. I mean, but there's been a lot of, shall we say, attachment between McMillan and the Packers. Gutey going to his private workout apparently was the only general manager there. Bring him in on a top 30 visits. Gutey yesterday at his presser acknowledging that they have spent a lot of time with him, which, for one, it's interesting that if he is really the target for Green Bay, like if he is the guy that they really want to try to get in that first round, it is interesting for the GM, I think, especially in a case like Gutey, to publicly acknowledge, like, yeah, we spent a lot of time with him. And, he could just easily downplay it, but I'm a little surprised, like, yeah, we spent a lot of time with him, just like we do with a lot of prospects, and just kind of keep it short and in general and to that. So, compare it to, and I know there's this thing going on social media where, well, you look at last year and he was really talking about Cooper DeJean and such, and, well, they could have drafted him in the first round. They didn't. So is there a lot there? I don't know. I don't read a whole lot into a general manager's presser days before the first round of the draft or days before the draft begins. I don't, and I don't think we all should. But for the sake of conversation, if he is that guy that Green Bay is really targeting in this first round, they are going to have to move up. I really feel like they are going to have to move up in the first round to get him. And maybe they've got this vision that, okay, if he's available in this range, then we can go move up and get him. And I feel like that range is somewhere between 13 and 17. Because if you look at the draft order, there's a couple of teams that may have wide receiver or may draft him with their first pick. Saints. And it's kind of in that range we talked about yesterday too, where to me it's kind of interesting between 8 and 12. Because you could go with multiple players for each team there. Maybe it's Carolina. Do they want another weapon for Bryce Young? Saints have been a popular mock pick for McMillan too. Okay, if he gets by there, what's next? Maybe Dallas at 12, who has been, again, a popular pick to grab a wide receiver to pair up with CeeDee Lamb. But if he gets past 12, then I think you're Green Bay and you're looking, okay, Dolphins, probably not. Colts, maybe. I mean, there's been some, but I mean, if there's a tight end available, tight end sure seems to be the very popular matchup with the Colts at that spot. Falcons, probably not. I mean, they already got a big wideout with Drake London. Cardinals, maybe to pair up with Marvin Harrison, but Bengals, yeah, no. I mean, they ain't drafting a wide receiver. I think that would probably really upset a lot of Bengals fans if they did after just shelling out a crap ton of cash to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. But then you got Seattle. Seattle's gone over a complete makeover on their offense. Geno Smith, gone. Sam Darnold, in. DK Metcalf, gone. Tyler Lockett, gone. Jackson Smith-Njigba, he's kind of their top receiver right now. Maybe they want a big receiver to pair with him. So that's why I feel like if this is the guy that Green Bay really wants, that they're really targeting with this draft, they're going to have to move up, I feel, if he gets past Dallas, because I don't think Green Bay is going to trade in the top 10 to go get him. And I don't think they're going to trade with the 49ers to, jump in front of Dallas. I feel like now the caveat is, if this is the guy that they want, I feel like maybe the plan is that, okay, if Tate's available past the Cowboys, if he's there for the Cowboys and the Cowboys pass him, then they've got maybe a plan in place where they target a team, a trade partner, where they can call up and say, hey, let's make a deal. Let's move up to try to jump up in front of Seattle. That's where I'm at with that. Or they take the gamble and take the risk that he falls down to 23. I don't know, but that's kind of where I'm at with this whole thing. I would be shocked, and I may pass out in Green Bay if I see Green Bay trading into the top 10 to go get a wide receiver. I would be shocked. Because that's going to cost a pretty penny, too, to move up that far to get him. Gutey, talking about McMillan a little bit yesterday. This was from Matt Schneidman from his piece when he was asked specifically about McMillan. Gutey was reportedly, again, the only general manager at his private workout. He did joke that he didn't actually attend it. He did, but he kept it brief on the wideout. Good, he said of his interactions with McMillan this offseason. We had him up for a top 30 visit. He's a third-year junior coming out, so we spent a lot of time with him, so it's been good. As Schneidman notes, maybe it's much ado about nothing, but that sounds initially like a general manager who doesn't want to let anyone know he's enamored with a prospect. The Packers seemingly had little interest in drafting DeJean in the first round, so Gutey had no issue firing off a scouting report about him. This was from last year. Gutey was asked last year about DeJean's positional versatility, so maybe this year's question about his time spent with McMillan didn't yield an expansive football answer because it wasn't specifically about football. Either way, the Packers are clearly interested in McMillan, for whom they'd likely have to trade up on Thursday night to get him. Gutey said anyone he'd trade up for using premium picks is expected to, quote, come in right away and be productive. So maybe it's only first-round picks that he doesn't trade up for who get time to grow on the bench. Gutey says, or this is a Gutey quote, when you're talking about premium picks, first, second, third, maybe even fourth-round picks, you're expecting those guys to be good players, right? So if you're going to do it, it's got to be a player worth that. Interesting. So, all right, we'll talk more about what Gutey had to say yesterday, including a Jair not-so update on Jair Alexander. But also the quote from Gutey where he said about his roster that he feels good right now that if they had to play next week, that they've got a good enough roster to win, and that they can hope, or that he's hoping they can go through this draft and just get the best player available. The question that I want to hear, or I want your answer from, is do you agree with Gutey when he says this roster is good enough to win right now? Not with no draft picks right now. Do you agree with him that if they had to play next week, that this is a championship caliber team, that they can go out there and win the Lombardi? Or you feel like, nah, they're a couple spots away, a couple picks away. So, what do you think? Give you a few minutes to hit me up with those thoughts. 715-830-1912. Coming up in a little over an hour from now, we'll catch up with Chad Reuter from NFL.com, draft analyst for NFL.com. We'll pick his brain with the upcoming drafts in just a couple of days from now. So be good to catch up with Chad here. We'll talk with RJ Cardinal coming up a little bit later on. Shortly after that, we'll talk some Badgers with him, wrapping up updating some spring ball. We got some injuries, some transfer portal stuff to hit up on, so we'll talk about that. Don't forget, it is a Toyson Ford Grind My Gears Tuesday. So what is grinding your gears? You can let us know by hitting us up with the text or comment on the video streams or hitting us up on the socials with what is grinding your gears. Get it off your chest. Feel better about yourself. A couple texts before we wrap up the first hour. Definitely excited to see Craig Yoho with the Brewers. The guy has been lights out in the minor leagues for the last couple of years. Excited to see if that can continue at the major league level. Potential closer, ? That's from Adam on our texting line. We've got Chad on the texting line also talking about Craig Yoho. Good to see Craig Yoho get promoted. He was so dominant the last couple of years. Hoping this is forever call up for him. A couple minutes left to the top. Good morning, Morgs.
You got the Packers gear on. You're getting ready.
Yeah.
Do you know a few things about Green Bay? Just going there besides for the draft?
You're going to quiz me, aren't you?
I just have some real easy ones.
Okay.
Real easy.
Let's see what you got.
Green Bay is the oldest city in Wisconsin. Did you know that?
I knew it was one of the oldest trading posts.
Yeah.
Fur
trader was a big deal there.
Yep.
Take a stab at the year that it was officially founded. Statehood was 1848. So we're talking oldest city in Wisconsin.
1657.
No. 1745.
Okay.
So 1700s is the oldest city, though. This is all easy breezy. You know this stuff, no problem. Home of the Green Bay Packers. League team founded in
1919.
Mm-hmm. Nickname of the city?
Nickname of the city.
Well, what we call it when we go there.
Oh, Titletown. Okay.
Right. And the Packers have how many NFL championships?
13.
Okay, so that's right, and it is Titletown to us here in Scotty. But there's an official capital of the world attached to Green Bay. What is Green Bay known as?
Is it like one of those sister cities? Oh no. Okay.
The blank capital of the world. I'm not making this up. This is like in the fact sheet. Green Bay is the blank capital of the world.
Toilet paper?
Yes. Look at that.
Yeah, I figured the paper, Green Bay paper and all that. So yeah, toilet paper.
If you were gonna give it an alternate name, the blank capital of the world, what would you put there?
Could we just say paper capital of the world?
Instead of toilet paper?
With a little office theme, maybe.
Yeah, just because it conjures up some bad images thinking of the toilet paper.
Yeah. Because there's a joke there for a lot of rival teams. So
there's also a joke there for some of the games we've sat through as fans over the years.
Yep.
So where's your excitement rating on 1 to 10 stars right now headed in?
Excitement 7, nerves 11.
Yeah. So you're tipped over in the nerve department?
Yeah.
They're starting road closures tomorrow. So Lombardi, Holmgren, McCarthy, and I think they said Favre Pass is closed tomorrow too. So
yeah.
What are you wearing? You're a fashion guy. You got your draft outfit picked out?
No, I don't.
It's like the Derby for sports.
It's gonna rain. It's gonna rain, so I gotta get some rain gear.
Yeah, but draft day is literally like the Kentucky Derby for sports people. You have to dress up. You got it. Yes.
No.
Kasper, don't disappoint us now.
I'm not doing that.
Get a suit on and wear it well.
Stop.
Like Strahan. Wear a suit like Strahan.
It's a Strahan polo, actually. All right, second hour kicking off right now on this Tuesday morning. A big thanks for tuning in wherever, however you're tuning in from. We'll get back to some more draft talk coming up here in just a little bit. We've got Chad Reuter from NFL.com joining us in about an hour. We'll pick his brain with the upcoming draft and such. So he'll be joining us in about an hour. Before or after that, we'll catch up with RJ Cardinal. We'll switch gears and talk a little Badgers. Big loss in the offensive line department for the Badgers at the left tackle spots. We'll hit that up and talk a little bit more about the transfer portal with RJ. That's about 8:25, 8:30, a little after 8:30, depending on how long we go with Chad and such. So we'll catch up with RJ. We've got a Toyson Ford to grind my gears Tuesday. So we'll hit him, or we'll get to your grind my gears. So what's grinding your gears? You can let us know by hitting us up with a quick text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line at 715-830-1912, or commenting on the video streams or on the socials and all that. So what's bugging you, and you got to get it off your chest. All right, we want to hear from you, so let us know. Okay, let us know. We're here for you. We'll get back some more Brewers talk as the Brewers will get set to take on the Giants for Game 2 tonight. We got Jose Quintana on the mound for the Crew. So hopefully W, maybe he can start off at 3-0 in the season. Also Game 2 tonight for the Bucks, and maybe the return of Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard listed as questionable on the injury report. It's actually a move up from where he has been, so possibly. I don't know if it kind of works like the NFL injury reports where, questionable is 50-50 and, they got rid of the probable stuff. Thanks, Bill Belichick, for that. But a lot of guys listed as questionable do end up playing in the game. So we'll see if that kind of plays out here for the Bucks tonight. But, man, I would love to see Dame back out on that court. And going up against Tyrese Halliburton and such. I'd like to see that. But C-Bomb with a quick text here. I could see them going McMillan, as you said. Orbit will be Shamar Stewart. What the heck is Orbit with Shamar Stewart? Those are my targets if they don't trade for Hendrickson. We'll get over that pipe dream. That ain't happening for Hendrickson. What do you want to see the Packers do at 23? I'm not answering that right now. You know better than that, C-Bomb. My mock draft comes out on Thursday, for crying out loud. So you already know that. You ain't going to try to get that out of me. Mock draft will come out actually live on Thursday. It'll be up on podcast on Wednesday if you want. If you want a quick or if you want the preview before we do it from Green Bay on Thursday. So, but, man, I don't know what mobile manage is in Green Bay. Figure out your texting ways there, C-Bomb. Holy moly. So we'll get keep hitting us up with those messages, but in better language than what C-Bomb's doing right now on our texting line there. Holy moly. Gutey yesterday, though, with his pre-draft press conference, he had this, didn't really have a whole lot to say about Jair. Which, again, what do you expect at this point in time? I mean, he kind of said, yeah, he's still on our roster. We'll see after the draft, though, is pretty much what he said. I think anybody's still holding out hope that Jair Alexander is going to be on this team next year. It's a pipe dream there. He said no updates on Jair. Quote, we'll see how the draft goes. He's gone. I think Gutey is really, really holding out hope that he can trade him for a pick in this draft. I really believe that. And maybe, again, kind of revisit last week. I think ultimately, if he could get a pick for this year's draft, that's a win. Ultimately, I feel like it's going to be a pick maybe for next year based off playing time. Maybe he could get a late pick this year for Jair Alexander, and then another pick for next year, and that pick is based off of playing time. So, because I feel like if I'm a team acquiring Jair Alexander, I want some protections. So sure, if you're a Packers fan, you want to get a high pick for Jair. Who wouldn't? If you want to move on from Jair or the team's going to move on from him, of course you want a high pick. But if you're that team acquiring Jair, you're going to want some protection too, because the guy has missed a lot of time the last couple of years, and he comes with a high price tag. So, yeah, you're going to want to throw some of that protection, or maybe some of that protection is going to be based off playing time. So maybe the happy medium is it's going to be a very late pick for this year's draft, which I know will upset a lot of fans. Oh, he's worth more than a 6th or 7th rounder. Yeah, he probably is. But maybe the other kicker to that is going to be another pick for next year's draft, and that's the one that's based off playing time. Yeah, obviously you can't base it off playing time for this year's draft. I mean, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't work. It literally doesn't work that way. So maybe Gutey's still holding out hope that he can get something. He can get something in this draft for Jair, but man, I don't see it at this point unless he's just going to settle for a 6th or 7th round pick. And again, that's going to make a lot of fans upset in that. But if Jair's unwilling to alter his contract, teams aren't going to want to take that on. What do you do at that point? And I'm sure a lot of the fans will probably say, well, then keep him and play him in that. But I don't know. It's an interesting situation. Green Bay right now, I mean, they're not probably in a rush to trade Jair Alexander by any means. They shouldn't be, As Kenny Rogers said, no one to hold them, no one to fold them in that. But they're not, I mean, there's no timeline or anything like that. It's not like they're in salary cap hell and they got to try to move on from him. Gutey's really trying to get the most out of what he can, and we'll kind of see where the price tag's at this point. But I'd be shocked if he's able to get a deal done during the draft for this year. All right, let's take a quick phone call. Maybe he can actually talk better than he can actually text. Good morning, C-Bomb. How you doing?
Good morning, El Capitano. I cannot text when I drive.
Well, don't text and drive. That's illegal.
No, you speak.
That's illegal.
Speech to text, and it's terrible.
Well,
I might as well be speaking Mandarin.
Yeah, then don't do that either. What are you doing?
I am fired up. I'm waiting for the draft, man. I'm going to come down and check out the mobile man cave. Spend the day in Green Bay. I'm stoked. I'm looking forward to this. It's going to be pretty cool down there, I think.
How early are you leaving on Thursday?
6 a.m.
6 a.m.
We'll be
okay.
listening on the way down there.
All right, you're up and at it already. Okay, I like it. So.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, first off, I still want to see him trade for Trey Hendrickson. I know that's not going to happen, but it's my pipe dream. But for me, I think McMillan is obviously there's been a lot of discussion about McMillan. I can't even pronounce his first name, but that would be intriguing. But I really like that edge rusher from Texas A&M, Shamar Stewart. I think that kid, he's like the perfect prototypical Packer,
So let me ask you about Stewart, though, because I'm going to play devil's advocate here, C-Bomb. It sounds a lot like Rashawn Gary coming out. Maybe plays like Tarzan, or looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane a little bit. Are you okay if it's going to take a little bit of molding? There's the athletic intangibles, but there's lack of production at the college level.
That's true, but I think I like to look at upside when you look at these players, not necessarily, that they dominated in college. So, those dominant college players, they don't always pan out to be look at Jadeveon Clowney.
Mm-hmm.
Great player, but he was going to be the next Reggie White. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like, I think Stewart has more than what a guy like, I just drew a blank. What's the guy we drafted that was a big bust, and we took him after Colin Kaepernick tore us up in the playoffs?
Oh, Dayton Jones?
Yeah, there you go, Dayton Jones. That was a, Tarzan plays like Jane type of player that just played like Jane his whole career. But I personally think Stewart is going to be a beast. Time will tell, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And, the thing I kind of, and again, I'm just playing devil's advocate with this whole thing, but, if they do draft an edge rusher early, how much do you have confidence in that you're actually going to see the guy play right away, considering that they've usually kind of brought along, their edge rushers or the first round picks where they're not necessarily guys that play right away in Green Bay?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would like to see somebody come in and contribute immediately. I think we need that, especially with, Minnesota's obviously going to be no joke. The quarterback situation is a little iffy, but any quarterback with that roster that's any good should be good. Detroit, they're freaking going to be Detroit. They're still going to be tough, even though they lost Ben Johnson. And Chicago's going to be no joke, man. They might be this year's Washington Commanders. So we're going to need somebody that can come in and play immediately and contribute immediately. And I think Stewart will. I don't think he's going to be like a every down defensive end, but I think he could come in and, wreak havoc on passing situations and provide some depth at the edge rusher that we really need.
What would make you boo or get really upset Thursday night with when the Packers are on the clock and they make their pick?
I will boo if they trade out of the first round and don't get anything to add to the roster immediately. So if they trade out for picks.
Okay, so if they trade out for picks, that would make you boo, but if it was for Hendrickson, you'd be okay.
I would do a backflip if it's for Henderson.
Okay. So that would so
at
if they
attempt a backflip.
Okay. So if they draft an offensive lineman, let's say, and for their 23rd overall pick, you'd be what? Your reaction?
I would understand it. I wouldn't be like over the moon. Nobody gets excited about offensive linemen because they're not the sexy pick, right? But you know what? What is sexy is keeping 10 on the field all season, not having to go to Malik Willis for 2 or 3 games. So, we do need some more depth at the offensive line, so I wouldn't boo that. But yeah, hopefully, I'm hoping they can get an impact player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
but the question here remains, El Capitano, which I have not heard yet. What do you want to see them do?
You gotta wait till Thursday when I do my mock draft.
How did I know I was going to hear that answer?
Or the podcast tomorrow when it drops a little bit earlier. So,
ooh, if it's dropping earlier, I will listen to the podcast and then I will listen to the follow up on the way up there or not over there Thursday morning.
So I will just say this: the more I think about my mock, I like it, which means none of it's going to happen. So, just throwing that out there.
Well, make sure your mock has some offensive lineman like Kelvin Banks or something that so we don't get that.
Oh, I got 2 offensive linemen in my mock. I'll give you a little bit of a tease, but it's not a first rounder. Not a first rounder. So
perfect.
So
I'm good with that. They do need to address the offensive line and hopefully they can do what they always do and get somebody who's very versatile and jump in and start when needed.
Well, and that's what, I look at an eye towards next year too, with all those impending free agents. I feel like Zach Tom's going to get a deal. I would be shocked if they let him go. But after that, I think a big training camp battle is going to be, can Morgan come in and play left tackle because Walker's going to be a free agent. Sean Ryan's going to be a free agent and such. So they're going to have some holes coming up after, not this year, but the year after.
Right. Yeah, and if you would have told me, it didn't even dawn on me that Quay Walker's already coming up for, his 5th-year option. It just blows my mind. It feels like he got drafted last year.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. All right, dude. Hey, if I don't talk to you beforehand, I'll see you on Thursday over in Green Bay, okay?
Sounds great. Good stuff. Go back home. Have a great rest of your week, Dan.
You got it. There you go. There's C-Bomb hopping off on the phone here this morning. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll get back to some more football talk here. But the question I kind of threw out there. So Gutey yesterday, this was, again, let's get the exact quotes from Gutey yesterday, talking about the current state of his roster. He said, if we had to go play next week, I feel really good about our roster and our ability to win. Hoping that he can select the best available player this week. Do you agree with Gutey at that point? Like, yeah, they've got a good enough roster to win. We're saying Super Bowl because that's the goal, right? It's not to just win a few games or such. The goal is to win a Super Bowl this year. I would hope that's what expectations are for the Packers. And I would hope that's what expectations are for Packers fans for this upcoming year. So do you agree with him that right now they do have a Super Bowl caliber roster that they could go out there and win right now, and that they're using this draft maybe just to add some more depth and getting the best available player and getting more talent to that depth. Do you agree with him? Or do you feel like, no, they don't have that roster and they need to hit on a couple of these picks to make them get into that level, if you know what I mean? All right, so we'll take a quick break. And we'll be back with some more football talk coming up after these quick words. Got a couple of events to put on your calendar with our good friends at VFW Post 305. First up, Saturday, May 3rd, Kentucky Derby Party. Starting off at 4 p.m. Come and watch the race with the good peeps at VFW Post 305. Drink specials and food specials. Prizes for the top 3 Derby hats. So if you got a sweet Derby hat that you think could win a prize, make sure you bring that. But if you don't have one, you don't need to wear a hat to come and enjoy the fun at VFW Post 305. Also, then Saturday, May 10th, the week after that. All right, coming up in a couple weeks. Saturday, May 10th, meat raffle. Who doesn't love a good old Wisconsin meat raffle, right? Starting at 3 p.m., proceeds go to the Eau Claire American Legion baseball program. There are many fees for families, and all proceeds will go to this worthy cause. A fun event for all. There will be food and drink specials. Coaches will be working hard, running the raffles. Vintage apparel will be available to purchase. 50/50 raffles will be available too, as well as silent auction items. So Saturday, May 10th, 3 p.m., meat raffle to help out Eau Claire American Legion baseball. So always something going on at VFW Post 305. Surveyor Sam says, no, we don't have the roster to compete for a Super Bowl. Pass rush fell off a cliff. We don't have a number 1 wideout. Secondary is in shambles after Xavier McKinney. And honestly, Jordan needs to step up. I will give him a break on his knee, but he needs to play consistent in order for this team to succeed. Jacobs saved this team multiple times last year, and you cannot continue to lean on a single running back to carry the team. So let me ask you first, follow-up surveyor on this. What do you want to see Green Bay do with the first pick in round 1? And everybody else right now, chime in. And I know it's Tuesday, and I maybe kind of wanted to save it for maybe Thursday or such. But what do you, and this is, I'm taking it from you, C-Bomb, here, since you asked me and I kind of brush it off here. But what do you want to see Green Bay do with that 23rd overall pick or their first pick? I'll just say that. What do you want to see them do? Position-wise, player-wise, and I guess a follow-up to this too. Is there a player that you're just kind of enamored with for your favorite team? If you're not a Packers fan, you can say it for your team too. I know we've got fans for other teams, so I want to include everybody on this, not just Packers fans. But is there a player for your particular team that you are just like, gosh, love him on my team? I think that would be the biggest boost to this team. Like, this is the missing key. Like, if there was just one player that was a missing key for your favorite team, who would that be? It could be a top player. Maybe there's a player that's kind of sneaky. So, like, we had a texter, I think it was Jeremy a little bit earlier, when we were talking about McMillan and such. And Jeremy mentioned Reuter Burden out of Missouri. I'll tell you what, Reuter is a guy that I am very, very intrigued about for Green Bay. And the more I was watching some of his highlights and film, and I just saw yesterday too, that was it Todd McShay or no, it was Matt Miller, I think, who we're going to be talking with at the draft, said that teams had asked for more film on Burden to show how he releases and coming out of breaks to kind of show his route tree. And I think it was Greg Cosell was talking about Reuter Burden too, and he's really, really high on him. And the more I'm like, oh, okay, I kind of like this guy. I'm intrigued with this guy, but I feel like he's going to get picked, where maybe 23 is a little too high, but the next time Green Bay's on the clock in the second round, he's going to be gone by then. Like, I feel like he's like that first pick in the second round type of range, or in the early 30s. But there's something about that guy. He's not the biggest. He's 6 foot, 6'1". He's not the fastest. But I don't know. There's just something about Reuter that I'm like, you know what? If he makes his way to Green Bay, I wouldn't be upset about it either. I don't know if 23, that might be a little too high for me, a little too rich. But there's a lot to like there. There's a lot to like with him. So, but in terms of like draft crush, who's your draft crush for your favorite team? Because come on, I know some of you got some. All right, you heard C-Bomb say his is Shamar Stewart. All right, C-Bomb, if you're still listening, I think that's accurate to say. Your draft crushes for the Packers, Shamar Stewart. So who is your draft crush for your favorite team? All right, think about it for a little bit. And hit me up. And I guess for me, I'm gonna try to be realistic with my picks. Like, okay, Travis Hunter, draft crush, but he ain't gonna be there for Green Bay. And Green Bay ain't training up to the top 2, top 3 to get him. So I guess, maybe looking at a more realistic option. Is it McMillan? Maybe it's Ibuka from Ohio State if you're looking at wide receivers. Maybe it's Michael Williams, edge rusher from Georgia. Derek Harmon, defensive tackle from Oregon. Been seeing a lot of Packer people on social media. That's kind of their draft crush. And I'll tell you, for the longest time, I'm not going to tell you whether I picked them, but I was really, when I was playing around with those online mocks, a lot of us have done it, and I'm still going to do it just to kind of see how the computers do it. But when I was doing it for Green Bay with those online mock draft simulators, I'll tell you what, Derek Harmon was my pick a lot for that first round. And I've been seeing a lot of people, a lot of Packers people saying that that's their guy in the first round is this defensive tackle out of Oregon, Derek Harmon. And I can see it, man. I can definitely see it. I mean, this is Daniel Jeremiah's write-up on him. Harmon is a quick, disruptive defensive tackle with excellent instincts as a pass rusher. He has quick hands to knock away the punch of opposing linemen. He also has a club rip move that helps him collect early wins. He flashes an occasional bull rush, but I'd like to see more of it because it's effective against the run. He's very aware and avoids getting displaced by down blocks. He can anchor down versus double teams, and he excels at shooting gaps to disrupt and redirect runners. Overall, Harmon has a great feel for the game, and he can create a lot of havoc despite lacking an elite trait. And then, okay, so I want to follow it up by your draft crush, but also maybe two parts. So I'm thinking of another question here. If you are in the camp that Green Bay has a major need for a wide receiver and that you want Green Bay to invest early in a receiver, maybe it's round 1, maybe it's day 2, round 2, early round 3, whatever the case may be, early. Is there a type of receiver that you want? And by that, I mean, I want a big receiver. I want a tall receiver to kind of fill in the role that is left by Christian Watson with the height. Or maybe you just want a speedy guy, taking the top off that way. Or maybe you're just like, prototypical wideout's fine with me. Talk about physical traits, like 6 foot, 6'1", good route runner. May not be the fastest guy on the field, but, may not have that one elite electric trait. But that prototypical size sort of thing. Maybe you're looking for an X receiver, a Z receiver. If you feel like if you feel like that you want Green Bay to get that receiver early, do you have a specific trait in mind? Like, I want a tall guy to fill in the loss of Watson that way. Or I want a speed guy to maybe stretch the field down. Again, lost from Watson in that aspect. Surveyor says, I want Higgins out of Iowa State. He doesn't drop the ball. Also, McMillan out of Arizona would be amazing. Pass rush would be like C-Bomb's pick. Stewart would be amazing. So, okay, to go off that, Stewart, because this is what's going to happen to some Packers fans. I'm just playing devil's advocate in this thing. Because I already know what's going to happen. Not from everybody, but some. If it is Shamar Stewart, and you get this is what's going to happen from the talking heads. They're going to say, great physical traits, athletic specimen, tested out of the waters at the combine. But then you look at the production at the college level, and it wasn't there, and that's kind of a head scratcher for some people. And now you're going to have, it's a Rashawn Gary for some people who don't like Rashawn Gary. Or you're going to see maybe some Lucas Van Ness comparisons. Not a lot of production in college, but the physical specimen, the athletic traits. Would you rather have that? Would you rather select somebody with your first round? Again, I'm just throwing this out there because I'm curious to get your thoughts on it. Would you rather draft somebody based off, okay, you look at the physical traits he brings, the athleticism he potentially brings to the table. I mean, this is a guy that just screams athlete, freak of nature sort of thing. Talent is there. Jordan, as Michael Jordan says, roof is the ceiling. Sky's the limit for this guy. If we can get that potential out of him. It's kind of like you're molding, you're getting that clay out and you're molding him into a player. You get to, coaches get to get their hands on him and try to develop him into this great player. So do you want somebody like that with your first round pick where, hey, sky's the limit, the potential's there. Maybe not there yet, but dude has that potential to be there. Or would you rather be a little bit safer, potentially, because the draft's a crapshoot, we don't know, but maybe a little bit safer and going with a guy that has shown production in college, shown a lot of good stuff, but maybe we kind of already have that ceiling. We know what he brings to the table already. It's a little bit more of a for sure thing, but maybe that potential isn't quite as high as what maybe this other guy could bring in a couple of years. You know what I mean? So I guess that you're boiling it down to the quote-unquote, would you rather have a more for sure thing or take a little bit of a risk and maybe get a wow type of thing in a couple of years, in a year or two? May not get that production right away, but in a couple of years, oh boy, you might want to watch out if it reaches that level. That's the risk in it all. How would you approach it if you are the general manager for the Packers? If you're Gutey, how do you approach that? What would be your way of doing business? Because I already see it coming. And I'm not saying I would disagree with the pick. Stewart is an athletic freak, and he could potentially be a really good player. But I already see it coming because you're going to have some fans hear that, he's looks like Tarzan plays like Jane. We've done that before. Don't want to go through that again. No, thank you. I want a guy that can play right away. I want a guy that can be an impact player right away. I don't want to wait 2 years. I don't want to wait for this guy. I want somebody who's already produced. It's going to happen if they select a guy like a Stewart. Now, is that the majority or is that just the loud majority? Put yourself in that position, Packers fans. Would you, with your first pick, because I feel like that's kind of been, not always, it hasn't always been the MO for Gutey or for the Packers, for Ted Thompson or whoever. Hasn't always been the MO. But I think a lot of times, and it's not just the Packers, other teams do this too. And I know we hyper-focus on Green Bay, but other teams do this as well. Where maybe in that first round, you're getting a guy that, okay, that ceiling is so super high. He's not there yet, but if we can get him there, boy, is that guy going to be a stud. So it may be a little bit more work involved. That's kind of what a lot of teams do with these first-round picks. Not every pick is like that, but some do it that way. And then you get into day two, where I love day two. Day two is my favorite, rounds 2 and 3, where you find those guys and it's like, okay, maybe these are guys that are a little bit more ready. May not be the physical freaks or the talent supreme of some of the guys in the first round, but you can throw these guys out there and they can help you day 2 or help you day 1. Guys that you get in day 2. I know you guys got an opinion on this, so let me know. All right. Would you rather have the safer approach? Maybe a little bit more cautious? Maybe a little bit more of the for sure thing? Or do you want somebody that it's a little bit riskier? May not be able to be ready to go right away. Might have to mold him up a little bit. Might have to, work him up, coach him up and such. But if we get to that level with that one player, if we get to him, it's going to take some investment. It's going to take a little patience. But if we get to that level, dude's going to be special. Kind of an informal poll. Let me know. I'm very curious to get your reaction from it. All right. We'll give you a few minutes to do that. We'll take a quick break and then finish up the second hour. We'll be back in just a few minutes. When it comes to one-stop shopping, there's truly only one store in the Chippewa Valley that can carry that title, and that is Hy-Vee in Eau Claire. From grocery shopping and picking up some new team apparel in their sports shop to maybe grabbing some beverages from their massive wine and spirits department, Hy-Vee has something for everyone. And if you want someone else to cook for the night, maybe you're kind of like our household where now you got sports and just a crazy busy week for the family this week. You want somebody else to cook for the night? They got many, many different options from their food court. And then when you head out, don't forget to stop by and fill up your gas tank with fuel perks that you earned from shopping at Hy-Vee. Shop smart, shop Hy-Vee. Let's go over a couple of texts here this morning. Or Surveyor Sam says, if it's a pass rusher, I want that bad man. Give me the freak. That is also mean. I want someone ready for a fight every time on the edge. So again, I'm just playing devil's advocate here, sir. Would you be willing then, if the guy, maybe it's going to take a couple years for him to hit that level? Would you be willing to wait? Or do you want, or are you going to be a little frustrated if it's going to take a couple of years? All right. A couple more people saying I'd rather have the safe pick, especially for a team that is at championship window right now. They don't have the luxury to wait and hope for a player to develop. That is from Ben on the texting line. Another text here. This comes from Dave. Sorry, I was returning a message here. This is from Dave. Dave saying, I'd rather go with the more for sure thing. Too many times have the Packers swung and missed when it's come to their first round pick. John says, I'd rather go with the guy with the high potential. I'm not one of those Packers fans that is already down on Rashawn Gary, and I'm willing to see what Lucas Van Ness can do in a pivotal year 3 for this defense. Mike also saying he'd rather go with the physical specimen and hope that they can reach that potential in a couple of years to be a Hall of Fame caliber player. Another texter says, if you're telling me that I can get a Hall of Fame player, but it may take a couple of years to mold them compared to just a Pro Bowl type of player, I'm going to go with the Hall of Fame player and take my lumps for the next couple of years. And then finally, we have Eric saying, I'd rather have the player that can help out and contribute right now, especially if you are a Super Bowl caliber team like Green Bay is. So I would say 50-50 right now. It's about 50-50. I think there is something to the fact that, okay, you want a guy that can contribute right now. You want a guy that can help you out right now, especially if you are a team that has a championship window. That you're going out there and, the goal is championship. You're not rebuilding, you're not retooling. So I think there is something to the idea of bringing in, somebody that can help you out right now because you have those goals right now. However, I think if you have to trust, if there's a guy that you really feel like at a certain point, first of all, let me back up. There is no for sure thing when it comes to the draft. There may be players that, we've said over the years, like, okay, that's a slam dunk regardless. And some have turned out that way. But there's been plenty of other examples where there's not a for sure thing. So with that being said, I think if you have to trust at a certain point, you have to trust your scouting. You have to trust the guys, the gals that you have in your room that are your scouts and that, and you have to trust your opinions. You have to trust your own gut. And if you feel like, okay, if we get this guy in our building, we get this guy with our coaches and such, we believe this could be a Hall of Fame type of player, then I think that's probably the route you go. And that's probably the route that a majority of these general managers in the front offices are going to go with that. But I get where some fans would be a little anxious, a little antsy. Josh says could wait a couple years, but it's got to pan out. First rounders should be playing at least in a rotation year one. It doesn't help to have a guy finally show up when you got to give him his second contract. Yeah, there's no question with that. I totally get that too. Right? I totally understand that. But that's the business that these guys, these GMs and these front office people are in. That's why I don't envy them. Their jobs are on the line by trying to forecast and predict how these players' careers are going to go, how these players are going to, turn out to be at a professional level. So many guys have lost jobs. So many people have lost jobs because they've predicted it wrong. Some have gotten big paydays, and when they've gotten it right, and maybe even some Super Bowl rings to go with it. I also asked a little bit earlier, okay, receiver-wise, is there a specific type of receiver that you would like to see Green Bay get in this draft? If you are a Packers fan that believes that Green Bay should draft a receiver early. We've got Jeff saying I would like for them to get a bigger receiver. They've already got Jaden Reed and now Mecole Hardman. Romeo Doubs is about average size. Dontavian Wicks, similar. So I think if they were to get a receiver early in this draft, it should be one of the taller, bigger ones and become a red zone threat. Steve says, I'd like to see the Packers get a bigger receiver that they can stretch the field down and take the top off the defense. Dave says, doesn't really matter to me. I hope they don't pigeonhole themselves and get just a certain type of receiver, just get the best receiver possible out there, regardless if he's 6'4" or 6 feet. And then another texter here says, I just want a speed guy. I don't care how tall or short they are. Just give me somebody that can run really fast and go up the sidelines and stretch the field. And then Doug says, I'd rather have a taller receiver if I had to pick between the two, because then I feel like you can create more mismatches and have that downfield threat where you can win some 50-50 balls. So I'll be honest, like I'm kind of curious if Green Bay does feel like they have to address receiver early on in the draft. Do they have a certain asset in mind that they want that receiver to possess, a certain physical trait that they want that receiver to possess? Is it somebody they feel like, okay, we're not going to have Watson? Looking at our current group, we need a little bit of a taller one. Or do they factor in like, hey, we got a couple tight ends we want to involve in the passing game more, and they're pretty tall, and Lucas Musgrave is really tall. So, yes, we're missing out on Christian Watson with his height, but maybe that's where a Lucas Musgrave kind of fills into that role. So we're not going to pigeonhole ourselves to just, looking at tall receivers. We're just going to get the best one out there. And honestly, I feel like that's probably where Green Bay is going to go. Whoever they got on their board, they're going to go with best available up there. Whether the guy's 6'4", 6 foot, 6'2", we know Green Bay's got certain requirements for certain positions. I mean, one of them that we've heard about over the years is like their corners. It has been like a certain height. Jair kind of towed that line there in terms of some of their physical traits, like their bare minimums in height. But you can kind of look at common things. It started with the Ron Wolf era. And then obviously Ted Thompson is a disciple of that. Gutey is a disciple of the Ron Wolf era. So you have these consistencies with a lot of these decision makers to have these certain criteria that they have certain positions that they would like to see those guys meet. There have been exceptions to the rule. Some of it, another one out there has been weight for some of the players. If you look at it, Green Bay historically has not drafted a ton of guys that are maybe a little bit light. Jane Reed was an exception. He was a little bit of an exception to that rule. That one seems to have kind of worked out. So, yes, there have been exceptions to that. Sometimes it's worked out. Sometimes it hasn't. Ahmad Carroll, remember that draft pick? That was a guy, again, that height-wise didn't really reach the Ron Wolf intangibles. That one didn't work out. But sometimes it does. It's kind of kind of maybe just another tool, part of the toolbox there. And a lot of it's going to be based off of what these offenses or defenses want to do within their style, right? We're going to be, if Jeff Hafley wants his corners to play press man, well, then they're probably going to try to get a corner that they feel like can excel at press man or has experience playing in a press man. If they want a defensive end that puts his hand in the dirt in a 4-3, well, maybe they're not going to look for a 6'1" outside linebacker to try to convert to a defensive end. Never say never, because Green Bay tried doing that with defensive ends and converting them to 3-4 outside linebackers back in the day, and that didn't work sometimes. Nick Perry had one good year and cashed in on that year. Good for him, though. But, I mean, how many times have we talked about, defensive ends and converting them to 3-4 outside linebackers? Oof. That was a struggle for a hot minute. All right, couple minutes left here. So coming up in just a few minutes, we're going to be talking with Chad Reuter from NFL.com, draft analyst. He's going to be joining us here in just a few minutes. We'll pick his brain with the upcoming draft in just a couple of days. So Chad Reuter will be hopping on in a couple minutes. We'll talk some Packers, what he thinks maybe the Packers should do with this draft as well. Check out his latest mock out there if you want. Chad does a fantastic job. Kind of envious of him that he can have the knowledge to do a complete 7-round mock draft. Yeah, you can check it out, NFL.com. I wish I had that type of knowledge to be able to do a 7-round mock draft for all the teams out there. I mean, you got to know your stuff, and you got to know your college players to be able to do that. So, Chad will be joining us here in just a few minutes. Then we got RJ Cardinal, our Badger analyst. We'll talk some spring ball and injuries to the Badgers offensive line, transfer portal updates, all that fun stuff. So, RJ will be joining us after we talk to Chad this morning. So, but keep your texts coming too. Hit me up, 715-830-1912. Really quick, Bloomer Tony on the video stream, Morning DK. Here's one to keep an eye on come Friday, Saturday. I'd like to see the Packers grab Dante Thornton Jr., the wide receiver out of Tennessee. Guy's a freak, 6'5", 4.3 speed, and a great replacement for 9. And when it comes to a first rounder, I wouldn't be surprised to see Gutey go big in the trenches like Josh Simmons out of Ohio State or edge rusher James Pierce out of Tennessee. All right, 2 in, 1 more to go. More draft talk coming up in just a few minutes.
Close to our area and begin in the courts with a man sentenced to over 20 years in prison for 2 counts of repeated sexual assault of a child. Man charged yesterday in Chippewa County Court, and according to documents, the girl told police the assaults have been happening for multiple years. The suspect will spend 20 years in prison, followed by 10 years of extended supervision, and also have to register as a sex offender. In the Black River Falls area, state officials say a well-known breeding bull elk was found illegally shot. The Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources found the bull on March 18th with the dead animal located on private property off East Snow Creek Road, which is just kind of north of Black River Falls. The elk died from gunshot wound injuries, and the DNR says it was one of the primary breeding bulls for the central elk herd and among the last of the remaining elk that were brought to our state from Kentucky in 2016. Well, let's get behind the wheel. Local businesses say they want to step up to help with the installation of new flashing stop signs in Eau Claire. So one of the intersections that's getting a lot of attention for those new flashing signs would be Damon Street and London Road. They say multiple accidents have occurred at that location, and now Rocket Construction say they want to help the city by donating money to finish the project. You can find some more information and coverage online with a link at 715newsroom.com. Eau Claire City Council expected to tackle that issue around the meeting table at their weekly meeting. And let's see, it's Tuesday, so the Easter basket is definitely blown past the Reese's, probably out of the Twix and Snickers. dipping into the Kit Kats and plenty of Starbursts and jelly beans?
Jelly beans have been to space. It was the president's favorite, and it's the first candy ever to be sold by weight. And we love them. According to CandyStore.com, last year Americans ate 16 billion jelly beans, and they're not really bad for us. One jelly bean has 4 calories. They're vegetarian, gluten-free, kosher, and free of most allergens. And when you eat them, the burst of sugar releases endorphins that make you happy. So have another jelly bean. I'm Bree Tennis.
Similar reactions here. They said, why are you so mean to Casper? Why do we need to throw shade his way? Why do we talk about his grumpy mood or what a whiner he is? I'm sorry, haters. I have to. It's science.
And when you eat them, the burst of sugar releases endorphins that make you happy.
For Sports Talk 105.1, I'm Morgan McCarthy.
Scattered showers and a few rumbles of thunder are making their way into western Wisconsin this morning. All of this is ahead of a warm front. Showers and thunderstorms will taper on off just after the morning commute, much like yesterday, leaving us with partly cloudy skies for a good chunk of the day. Temperatures will be relatively warmer in the mid-60s, 64 degrees that high. Overnight lows bottoming out near 41. I'm 13 First Alert meteorologist Sarah Lighthizer.
When you're in the business of building the future, why rely on yesterday's internet technology? 100% fiber internet from TDS is engineered to handle industrial strength demands with turbocharged symmetrical speeds and 99.9% network reliability. Get internet that keeps your business light years ahead. Upgrade to cable-crushing TDS fiber internet. Strong enough for your business, strong enough for you. Learn more at tdsbusiness.com. Internet speeds are up to and not guaranteed. Subject to availability. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
The following is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways with the purpose of soliciting sales of vacation ownership. For complete details and restrictions, please visit fvgradio.com. If you want a 100% complimentary stay in Cancun at a luxury resort, then Family Vacation Getaways is your ticket to paradise. We're giving away 5 days and 4 nights to the first 50 callers who can name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. An animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. Do you know it? Call now at 800-417-6411. That's 800-417-6411. You may also be eligible for an exciting bonus vacation in Orlando, Florida for just $398. And don't worry about anything ruining your plans. We can extend your stay for up to 18 months. Name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird, and you get a complimentary Cancun resort stay and an optional bonus vacation in Orlando for just $398. What are you waiting for? Call 800-417-6411. Again, call 800-417-6411 and give us your answer. The proceeding is not a contest or sweepstakes. It is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways and is not sponsored by or affiliated with this station or program.
Stop by Next Gen Power Sports in Fond du Lac during the Can-Am Upshift Spring Sale for limited time deals of 0% for 60 months or up to $3,000 rebate. Conditions apply. Visit dealer for details.
From the hardwood and the diamond to the gridiron and the course, Dan's got you covered with his trademark blend of sports passion and knowledge. He has the sports info you want and the sports therapy you need. So get your game face on, people.
Let's go get to the bell, huh? Put up or shut up time. We gotta get it started from the jump. Play big. Let's go. That's what legends made, man. It's showtime. Welcome to the big leagues. Let's go.
Because it's the Dan Kasper Show.
Final hour on this Tuesday morning of April 22nd. A big thanks for tuning in and making us a part of your starts. Coming up towards the bottom of the hour, we'll catch up with our Badger analyst, Mr. RJ Cardinal from the Zone in Madison. Spring ball, we've got injuries to the offensive line, transfer portal questions, all that fun stuff. So we'll catch up with RJ in a little bit. We got picks at the back end of the hour. Don't forget to send in your Grind My Gears Tuesdays. We'll get to those on the texting line in just a little bit. But we begin this hour continuing some draft talk, and joining us right now from NFL.com. You probably check out his 7-round mock drafts. I do all the time. But, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Chad, first of all, Chad Reuter from NFL.com joining us. UWC undergrad alum back in the day too, Chad?
That's right. Graduated in, I'm not going to even say the year. It was a long time ago. But yeah, undergraduate, did my undergraduate work there and then went on to Madison for grad work.
Awesome. So
love the old UWEC, beautiful campus.
Absolutely. Have you got to come back up? I don't know. Maybe you have, check out the new Sonatag Center basketball arena and such too. I haven't
yet. I do have to get up there and see that.
Definitely. So, well, Chad, again, big thanks for hopping on and catching up with us here in the Chippewa Valley. So let me just kind of ask you generally, with this draft coming up, what are the positions that you think have the greatest amount of depth in this upcoming draft?
I think you'd have to look at the defensive tackle class. There's going to be a lot of guys picked 5th, 6th, 7th round. They're going to contribute rotationally, maybe even become starters on the defensive line. So I think that's the first part. The second part is the second best is probably running back. We've seen this in drafts over time where you have 15 guys or more picked on day 3, and a lot of them will contribute as rookies, whether, again, it's part of a rotation or stepping in and getting 12, 15 carries a game, sometimes, in the red zone. And I think this is going to be another year for teams that can hold off a little bit on that position until, 4th or 5th round and get a guy that can start for them.
I got to ask, how the heck can you do a 7-round mock draft, man, and know all those players? I mean, that's got to be quite the process to do 7-round mock drafts.
It's a cumulative process. I start in May for the next draft, so I'm very familiar with these players and many more. But really, because I do a 3-round right after the Super Bowl, so I kind of get the ball started, and then the combine and all this stuff. It just kind of builds over the months, and but yeah, it's interesting trying to place those last guys, at the end of the draft and have it make sense.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, we haven't seen a trade yet, and I believe this is the closest we have gotten to a draft where there hasn't been a trade that's involved any first-round picks. Now, I know in your latest 7-round, you do have some trades, mocked some trades in there. Is there a certain, if there's a player that kind of falls in this draft, could you see a team maybe jumping up to move and get that player? And who do you think that player potentially could be?
Well, I think there's two potential choices. You've got Abdul Carter, who, it's hard to tell what's smokescreen and not, but if teams aren't 100% thrilled with his football character, if he's not the greatest teammate or something like that, it's kind of the stuff we heard about Jalen Carter that ended up having him fall to 9, even though he's one of the top 2 or 3 players in that draft class. If something like that were to happen and Carter is available, say, at 5, for some reason, the Jaguars could move out of that spot for a team that would be very interested in him, which, would be many teams. So that's one possibility. But I think the better possibility would be if Ashton Genty, running back from Boise State, makes it past the Patriots at 4, the Jaguars may get some phone calls from the Bears, from the 49ers, from the Cowboys, and maybe others to see if they could wrestle him, away from the Raiders, who would, I'm pretty confident would take him at 6. So I think that's the 2 guys that, we should look for potentially if there's going to be a trade at the top. But I haven't projected any top 10 trades this year because honestly, 3 of the last 5 years or something like that, there really haven't been any trades early in the draft. Teams are just kind of willing to let it play out without making any moves. So I don't project any happening at this point.
Do you feel like, or maybe it's a different player, but Shedeur Sanders, I mean, there's, again, like you said, I don't know what's smokescreen or what's real out there, but I mean, we've seen him mocked as high as, top 5, maybe even falling down to Pittsburgh. Is he the most intriguing player in this draft in terms of he could go all across the board, or is there maybe another player you have in mind for that?
I think Sanders and Jackson Dart are both in that category. I think both of them could be top 10 picks, and I think Sanders is pretty likely to go top 10 if he doesn't go to the Giants at 3 or the Raiders at 6, the Jets at 7. I would think he would be at the Saints at 9. I don't think he makes it past the Saints. But Dart is a guy that I've had in the top 10 for a while, and I'll be very interested to see if teams, just because of the demand for quarterbacks, in the top 10, I just listed, 4 teams that could take one. And so I think Dart is another guy who could go to the Saints. If Sanders is off the board at 3 or 6 or 7, then the Saints could very well take Dart at 9. He would be the kind of quarterback that new Saints head coach Kellen Moore would appreciate.
NFL
But he could fall to the Steelers too. That's quarterbacks are, and that's not just, by the way, in the first round. In the second round, Jalen Milroe, Tyler Shook, Quinn Ewers. I mean, these guys could go early 2 or go mid 3. I mean, it's going to be wild to see where these guys end up getting picked.
You mentioned those quarterbacks, Jalen Miller and Ewers and such. That's where I was looking at day 2. Like, I love day 2. I don't know if I'm in the minority, but I love day 2, like round 2 and round 3 and such. And you see those are big time college quarterbacks over there. Could you see a potential kind of run on those guys that maybe a team doesn't necessarily have a starting quarterback need right away, but maybe in the next couple of years or so?
Well, yeah, for sure. That's a definite possibility because, look, Cleveland, we all know Deshaun Watson's time in Cleveland's probably gone. And just because a team signs a guy like Sam Darnold or Geno Smith or Justin Fields, those kinds of veteran acquisitions have actually resulted in more rookie quarterbacks being taken in the first and second round because those guys are not necessarily brought in as 100% going to be our starter for the next 5 years. They're just not. They sign a 3-year deal and they may be gone after 1 or 2. So I think there's going to be a number of quarterbacks. We're going to have 8 or 9 quarterbacks go in the top 3 rounds, and some of them, a number of them are going to be teams that signed veterans leading in. We see that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
After Kirk Cousins was given $180 million, and then they took Michael Penix from the top 10, but the Falcons last year, rookie quarterbacks, are not bothered by veteran contracts anymore.
Yeah, good point. Chad Reuter from NFL.com joining us, draft analyst, draft expert. Now, with the Packers here, I think if you ask a lot of fans, at least the fans that chime in with us, they're looking at defensive line, defensive end, corner, wide receiver, maybe even offensive line depth there. How does this draft shape up for those 4 position groups, if those are the 4 biggest needs for the Packers?
Yeah, they can do pretty well at edge or defensive tackle a little bit later in the draft. I think they can get, like, for example, in the latest mock, I'd have them taking JT Tuamalola from Ohio State. They could also take Jack Sawyer from Ohio State in the second round. They can get a defensive tackle a little bit later in the draft. There's a guy named Zeke Biggers from Georgia Tech who's very similar to T.D. Slayton. And so you could see that as an easy fit to kind of bolster the line, the run defense. In the first round, there's not a ton of great receivers in this draft. And so I could see them moving up like they did for Christian Watson in the first round if their last remaining receiver was on the board, say at 19, Tampa Bay, they move up. Their last first round receiver, I should say, it moved. I could see them moving up for him. If an edge defender falls into that same area, I could see them moving up for one of those as well. So I think you can see that. In corner, I don't know if there's going to be a corner. If a corner like Will Johnson falls into the 15-16 range, maybe they move up. Maybe they like Jahdae Barron from Texas enough to move up for him. But the corner draft is not as deep either, so they may want to consider a move up for one of those guys if they want a true difference maker in the secondary.
I know Brian Gutekunst held his presser yesterday, and a popular player that was talked about was McMillan, the receiver out of Arizona. Yeah. But would Green Bay, do you think, would almost have to trade, I don't know, top 10 or just outside the top 10? If that's the guy that they really are targeting, do you think they'd have to move up quite a bit to try to get him?
Not necessarily. Depends on what the Cowboys do. In my mock draft, I have them taking Matt Golden from Texas rather than McMillan. If they want more of a speed guy rather than a size guy that can has the physicality and the hands to be that kind of receiver. They had interest in DK Metcalf, the Cowboys did, so they may take McMillan at 12. So they may have to move up, but there's a chance that they don't and they go with a guy like Golden instead. And so then McMillan could be available even to Seattle at 18. So if the Packers were able to, say, make a deal with the Cardinals at 16, if the Cardinals want some more picks, they could, potentially get their hands on McMillan or Golden if he's available, or Luka like I have in the mock draft that I put out. So they could move to 16 or 19 and try to land one of those top guys.
I want to go back to last year's draft because it affects Green Bay this year. But Jordan Morgan, who was the first round pick last year for Green Bay, we heard Gutey and Matt LaFleur talk about they're going to give him a shot this year to play that left tackle spot, to win that left tackle spot. What was your analysis on him last year? And do you think he can be a starting left tackle at the National Football League?
Yeah, I think he can be a starting left tackle. I preferred Graham Barton coming out of Duke to Morgan as a prospect, and a lot of people automatically thought Barton would shift inside to center, and he's been a good center. But I don't think he needed to do that. I think they could have taken Barton. He could have played tackle or guard for him. But I think Morgan's good enough to be a starter. I don't know if he's going to be a plus starter or just kind of an average starter. We'll see. But he wasn't the guy that I liked necessarily at that spot last year.
Yeah, I know you got for Cleveland Travis Hunter in your latest mock, but if you are the general manager for the Browns, would you go Hunter or would you go Abdul Carter to pair up with Myles Garrett?
Travis Hunter, 100%, 150%. I'd go Travis Hunter. He's the best player in the class. He's a unicorn. He's going to play both ways. He's going to be an excellent player. Smart kid, knows the game, great ball skills. He's a fantastic player. So to me, it's not really even close.
And then just a final question here for you, Chad. You mentioned him a little bit earlier, but Ashton, the running back from Boise State, do you feel like he is that guy that maybe gets teams a little antsy and to really try to move up and get him in the first round if he's there? I know you kind of mentioned Abdul Carter a little bit earlier too, but it feels like Ashton is the guy that a lot of teams, at least from social media that I read, that are just enamored with him.
Yeah, I've had him going 6 to the Raiders since February. He may not even make it there. I think Gentee is really that guy kind of a player. And guys, people talk about how running backs are devalued, but Saquon Barkley goes 2, Leonard Fournette goes 4, Zeke Elliott goes 4. I mean, it happens regularly. Running backs are taken that high, and Gentee got as good of a grade as, maybe not as good as Barkley coming out, but just slightly below that. And he's going to be a fantastic player.
Who's the last one here? Who's maybe the one team in the first round you're kind of intrigued about what they're going to do with their pick?
The Jets, I think, are very interesting. Do they take a quarterback? Do they go for offensive line? Do they take Tyler Warren, the tight end from Penn State? They're really a question mark. And don't leave out Jackson Dart. They say all the right things about Justin Fields, but the fact is they gave him basically a 1-year contract, and you're going to want competition. So the Jets are a really interesting part. I have an article, 5 pivotal spots in the first round. You can find it on NFL.com, and I talk about them and other teams.
Awesome. Chad, big thanks, man, for joining us here this morning and breaking it down. I know it's a busy week for you, so we appreciate it. And, when you come up and check out Sign and Tag, let us know, and we'll catch a basketball game or something together up there. Okay, bud?
Yeah, sounds great, Dan. Thank you so much.
You got it. There you go. Chad Reuter from NFL.com joining us here this morning. You can check out all of his work. Again, NFL.com, Chad Reuter, 7-round mock draft. I mean, dude is just fantastic, and a big thanks again for him joining us here this morning and taking some time out of this of his busy week to talk a little draft. So, all right, let's take a quick break and we'll switch gears here. We'll catch up with Mr. RJ Cardinal. We'll talk some Badgers. We got some Badgers heading into this draft, so we'll get his thoughts on that. Spring ball, big injury to the offensive line we got to talk about. We'll switch gears and talk a little college football coming up next. Another big thanks to NFL.com's Chad Reuter for joining us to talk a little NFL draft. If you missed any portion of that conversation, we'll put it up in our podcast a little bit later on this morning. Still talking football, college-wise. We're going to bring in Mr. RJ Cardinal, who is joining us here this morning. So, RJ, I guess a tradition unlike any other after we get done chatting the week prior, something kind of happens, and then this was not a good one that happened last week, but Wisconsin offensive tackle Kevin Haywood, he's expected to miss all of the upcoming season after tearing his ACL. He's the projected starting left tackle for this team. So, I mean, obviously starter, blind side, it's got to be a huge loss for this team, right?
Oh, absolutely. You thought you were anchored down over there, and now you're giving a shot to Leighton Nelson, who during the spring game was replaced in the second half by Joe Brunner. So who really knows what's going on there? It might be a situation where our left tackle isn't even on the roster yet. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what plays out there, but they're trying some stuff as they're moving forward.
So, I mean, you know, I got an offensive line. We've been so used to this just being such a powerhouse for this. Is there questions surrounding the depth across this whole offensive line for this upcoming year, RJ?
A little bit. There are some guys who are being held out of spring practice right now, so even then, the depth isn't quite there of what they're looking for. So, but they still do have quite a few guys who were highly rated as they were brought in as freshmen and recruits and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see what they do in the transfer portal here as it's opened and as you move your way into the summer, and we'll see what kind. We'll probably get more of an inclination of what they're looking to do at the position as they're moving forward here now that spring ball is essentially over. I think they still got 1 or 2 more practices, but those are closed before spring officially ends.
So, as you mentioned, I was kind of leading into my next question. What's the latest that you have heard or maybe talked to people who were at practice that maybe kind of stood? I was reading a little bit that maybe Daniel O'Neal looks a little bit more comfortable, who's maybe going to be the second quarterback on this roster. Was there anything else that you heard or kind of stood out to you from what you heard?
Well, there was only 1 interception on the day.
Oh, wow.
two years ago in the launch, you had like 5 right away. And then last year, every quarterback who took a snap had an interception on the day. So, you were 1 interception from Carter Smith going against the threes. So, I mean, that's quite an improvement right there. But, in terms of that kind of thing too, after his departure and even during it, when you find a stat of, what was determined by Longo as a good read or not, whether it was an interception, an incomplete or anything, it was, did you go to the primary target I created for this play? It wasn't really anything else than that. So maybe, checking down, not necessarily trying to force something in, might actually be the better read than how I drew it up, and you should throw it right there no matter what. Especially when a quarterback can give an answer of, did you see the defender? And you say yes. Well, come on. It's not a good read then. Mm-hmm. But I think what we saw from the offense, it reminds you a lot more of Wisconsin style of play. 12 personnel, 22 personnel, some receivers doing work in the backfield. I guess we didn't really lose that when Longo took over, but a more Wisconsin style of use of running wide receivers in the backfield. Each of the 3 scholarship running backs that were getting the ball averaged more than 5 yards a carry. Once again, Cade Giacomelli just doing Cade Giacomelli things, and hopefully he'll get touches this year. Apparently the coaches have said this is going to be his year. What that means, I don't know, because you can run for 8.3 yards per carry last year and not get a touch in 5 games. That seems like negligence on the offensive coordinator and offensive staff. But, there's a new guy in there, and he maybe doesn't have prejudices. Yeah, towards where people might have come from, and trying to prove that their own guys are better than what was left in the quote unquote bear cupboard. When 8 carries, 94 yards, 11.7 yards per carry. One of that was a 55-yard touchdown run for Yakimelli. Take that one out and you're still at 5.6 yards per carry for him. Dylan Jones had 68 yards, averaged 5.2, and Gideon Atuka had 51 and averaged 5.7. So you had Darian Dupree, who was out due to injury, so he didn't get any touches. But from reporters asking questions and watching post-game, post-practice stuff, it kind of sounds like Yakimelli and Dupree might be your 1 and 2, and Dylan Jones, your 1A, 1B, and Dylan Jones will be your 2 for short yardage and just get us the yards situations when it's a running back, and not necessarily putting Jackson Aker back there, who is he's been around, so he's played some tight end, he's played fullback, he's played running back. We might see some fullback swing passes again. Those were prevalent in practice. It did happen in the spring showcase. So who knows? It's becoming a more dynamic offense, like we saw under Paul Chryst, whether you want to admit that's dynamic or not. It seems the more things change, the more they stay the same at Wisconsin. It's like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And somebody decided it was time to fix it. But one way or another, the offensive running game looks to be better than it was before. And whether that's probably mostly because of the personnel you're trotting out there when you do 12 and 22 personnel. I would hope your running game gets better, because if it's not, that really lets you know you do not have the talent back there. Offensive line, running backs, tight ends, all that. Just lets you know the talent's not there. But the running game looked pretty good. Passing game wise, I think Danny O'Neill, at least when plays break down, much better of a scrambler and evader than we saw Billy Edwards. But Billy Edwards 9 for 16, 65 yards. Danny O'Neill 6 for 11, 91 yards. All that's unofficial. It's basically asking for notes from Zach Heilprin here. So, because I wasn't taking notes myself, but the passing game is a work in progress, and we'll see what happens as we move forward. There were some receivers who were held out due to injury or just not playing, so. It'll be interesting to see what happens as we move forward into fall camp and see how the maturation of this offense, especially on the passing game side of things, progresses into the season.
Really quick, RJ, I gotta pause it here for a sec, because once in a while we do for the love of the game kind of shout outs to people, and I know she's listening right now. So part of our quick shout out, RJ, is we got to shout out a little girl named Leighton, who yesterday made 3 goals in soccer. 3 goals in her soccer game yesterday. So shout out to Leighton. I know she's listening right now. We want to give highlights to, shout outs to those who still play for the love of the game, and that's our shout out this morning. So give a big time shout out to Leighton for hitting 3 goals in her soccer
congrats
game.
on the hat trick, Leighton.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I know. So that is really good.
I always played defense in soccer, so I rarely got across the line.
I stunk at soccer, so that's why I never played it. So there we go. But have to give a shout out to Leighton, because I know she's listening right before going to school this morning. So I want to talk a little bit, going back to football. We heard yesterday or last week too, Ryan Ramchuk's calling it a career, RJ. And I think, former Badger offensive lineman, but the story from him, I mean, playing at UW Stevens Point, being from Stevens Point, playing at Stevens Point, then going up to Madison and such, former first round pick, and obviously injuries kind of ending his career earlier. But when we talk about some of the best offensive linemen in Badgers history, where does Ryan Ramczyk, when you think about it from that list, kind of rank up? Because I feel like sometimes he gets lost in the shuffle a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it's because of what you're talking about. He didn't start at Wisconsin. He transferred in.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those. I think a lot of people thought it was, oh, they're just throwing a state kid a bone here to let him play at Wisconsin and all that. But he came in with some good fanfare of being like, well, I don't know why this kid went to Stevens Point. No offense to Stevens Point, but he could have been a Badger from the start or a D1 player from the start. But everybody has their reasons for where they go and all that kind of stuff, whether it's, I didn't want to be a walk-on. I wanted to play right away. And, if that forces you, not a lot of people would make that kind of decision. But it's one, I think, since he didn't play his whole career here, and even though he was technically the last first round pick
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For the Badgers, but there was two that year. He was the last one to be picked out of the Badgers in that first round. It's still one of those. He's up there, but I think you're right. He gets a little lost in the shuffle because he wasn't the 3 to 4 year starter here, either as a true to redshirt freshman all the way up to a senior or junior. So definitely up there with some of the other greats you can go through. And maybe not to the Joe Thomas or Mike Webster level, but definitely, the next tier down with Frederick and that kind of class of guys. Just throw him right on in there. He's part of that long line of Wisconsin linemen who NFL teams take a chance on by picking them early and usually are rewarded. You're right. Injuries, all that kind of stuff. Sad to see the career end a little early, I guess. But I think we see that more and more nowadays, that when players start to see a breakdown in the body or things like that, they become more aware of their mortality and how they don't want to end up like some of these old timers who are having a whole bunch more health issues rather than just achy joints.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. RJ, basketball wise, the transfer, now I saw somebody say the transfer portal closes today. Is that just for basketball related? Do you know?
I think so. Cause
Okay.
it's only open for is it even 30 days? I can't remember when it opened, but I think it opened.
It was right before the final, Sweet 16, I think it was, because I think Calipari was making a big deal about it, and he was right.
Yeah.
So,
no, it's one of those. It becomes it's open so people can get to a new school by the end of, especially in this time. By the time all that shakes out, but it's definitely got to be something that gets worked out on being an end of the season thing rather than, hey, we're in the middle of the season. Some people are done, some aren't. So let me go.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's I believe it is.
Yeah, it looks like today then
right now.
Football ends at Friday already, the spring one. So
yeah, that's a little shorter of a window because you're going to find out whether you're going to be in a situation you like. So it's basically a spring ball kind of thing where you're getting to talking to, and I know I still haven't heard if that House thing passed. So that means I think no matter what, you still have to be down to 105 players. So looking at roster sizes across the country, there still are some rosters that aren't really there yet. So some of that will be, hey, I don't know, it's discussion a coach will have to have on whether or not they see that person there, or they'll at least tell them what their role is going to be, and then leave it up to the player to decide whether or not to get into that transfer portal.
I was reading a little bit too, because yesterday I'd seen that there was a kid from North Carolina, their big man, Van Allen, who's entering a transfer portal, but it's weird because he's staying at North Carolina. He's entering a transfer portal, but he's going to stay at North Carolina, and it's all related to this this case, this House versus the NCAA case, because the complexity surrounding it, and he's doing it to protect himself legally because he's got like a third party NIL. I mean, it's so over my head, RJ. It's so confusing with everything going on with it right now.
Yeah, I think it's over everybody's head. I mean, it's one of those you almost wish the NCAA just took stuff into their own hands and made rules for NIL.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're the governing body or something. What a novel idea. But I think we've had issues with the NCAA in a lot of things in terms of how they arbitrarily apply their own rules depending on what school is involved and things like that. I mean, heck, that's why Nizer Forkerine is still here. I mean, he's technically out of eligibility, but in terms of his D2 time, he played in 11 games, but when you break it down and all that, it's actually only like 3 games he played in 1 year due to all sorts of different issues and things like that. But still, it's just kind of crazy what's out there in terms of, you know, people suing the NCAA for JUCO eligibility, people suing the NCAA for time at D2 shouldn't count at D1. I mean, they opened up a slippery slope, and I mean, it's something that the NCAA really it seems every move they make, they put their foot in their mouth, and they just add this whole House versus the NCAA to the list of not being able to govern and really making yourself irrelevant. And the reason why there's even talk of, you know, that Super League where, I mean, that thing died pretty quickly though. But you still hear those murmurs of the Big Ten and the SEC breaking away and having, I mean, however many, you know, Big Ten adds 2 more, the SEC adds a couple more, and you have a 40-team Super League of football only conference, and have those teams, which I find it funny. People still say, why did Northwestern, Indiana, and like some of those smaller schools get to tag along? Well, I mean, they're there. Big Ten is one of those that's, well, modern day really hasn't had any issues because they share their revenue and they don't weight it based on who's on TV or not. I mean, that might be frustrating to Michigan and Ohio State, but overall it really helps the conference out as a whole. And I mean, I think we can see that in like Indiana making the college football playoff this year and stuff like that. So actually helps out your conference when you do revenue sharing rather than make sure only the rich keep getting richer.
All right, RJ, I'm going to wrap it up by asking you this question. I know we kind of talked about some of the Badger draft prospects last week, and, you know, there's a couple of them here, but Hunter Waller, first of all, really quick, would you agree he's probably going to be the first Badger taken, or better chances of being the first Badger taken?
Well, I've now seen in like the last couple of days, it might be Jack Nelson.
Okay.
There's people projecting him as an early day 3. Now, I mean, I don't know what, I assume your early day 3 is round 4 or 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Hunter Wohler still being projected as 6th or 7th. And then Joe Huber is just late day 3. So, I mean, I don't know why you just can't say 6 or 7, 4 or 5 or whatever, but I guess without nailing around, you can at least say day 3 and you get a chance at 4 rounds to get picked. So for whatever reason, even though like after the combine and all that, all of them are were being projected as late day three. Yeah, Jack Nelson apparently is moving up, maybe because he's interviewing well at places or something like that. But yeah, it seems industry people think he'll be the first Badger off the board. I would then say Hunter Wohler, followed by Joe Huber, and yeah, so things changed quite a bit since we talked last week.
Yeah,
where I think most of them I said, you know, the first two could be late picks, and then probably Joe Huber, free agent pickup. But yeah, now it seems everybody's kind of settled into day three for being picked.
Interesting. He's RJ Cardinal, our Badger analyst. Good stuff as always, buddy. Hey, appreciate it. Appreciate the time this week, and I'll be paying attention to social media to see what happens today, so we could talk about it next week.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, yeah, give it about an hour, and I mean, we could probably jump back on in an emergency situation.
There you go. There you go. All right, dude. Enjoy the week, and we'll catch up soon. Okay, bud?
You too. We'll talk to you later. Have a good one.
Thanks, bud. There you go. RJ Cardinal joining us here this morning. We got to take a quick break, and we'll wrap it up by making some picks after these few words. All right, let's we only got a few minutes left to the top of the hour here, about 5-6 minutes left here. So let's wrap it up with some picks brought to you by the Elbow Room. And speaking of the Elbow Room, we got to announce our good friend, our good buddy Garrett over at the Elbow Room. Moving on, gonna be retiring and such. Sounds like we'll see what Garrett's got going on here, but having a little shindig at the Elbow Room coming up later on this week, Thursday, Friday. So stop by, say thank you to Garrett for everything that he's done with the Elbow Room and such for many years. But it's like a perfect time too, right? Right? Got the draft coming up. Garrett's a big football fan, draft fan. Got some new talent coming in and such, and now moving on to the next level. Now Garrett's moving on to the next level. Kind of. Don't know if he planned it that way to do it with the draft and that, but nonetheless, if you got some time this week, and especially like later on this week, Thursday and Friday, stop on down to the Elbow Room. Give a big thanks to Garrett for all that he's done for the Elbow Room, and thanks for the memories and all that good stuff. So a big time shout out to our good friend Garrett at the Elbow Room. Moving on to the next phase, next chapter in his life. So. But let's do some picks here when it comes to the to our final segment this morning. Let's start it off with let's go NBA before we get to a little baseball. No, let's start off with the NHL because we got Stanley Cup playoffs here first. So we'll start off NHL, then we'll get to the NBA, then we'll do some quick baseball picks here. We got on the Stanley Cup playoff schedule, the Devils taking on Carolina. Carolina leads that series 1-0. I'm going to ride with the Hurricanes. We got Ottawa at Toronto. Toronto series lead. I'm going to go Toronto. Taking on Tampa Bay, game 1 tonight. I'm going to go with the Lightning. I'm going all home team. Sorry, Wild fans. Minnesota's taking on the Knights. Game 2 of this series. I'm going to go with the Vegas Golden Knights. NBA playoff schedule. We've got Memphis taking on Oklahoma City. Come on, it's OKC. Minnesota at the Lakers. I want the Timberwolves. Want them to knock out the Lakers, but I think the Lakers get game 2 tonight. Milwaukee at Indiana. I think Dame plays. I think that's going to change the line. Right now, the Pacers are favored by 4.5. Bucks win. Steal home court. Even series up 1 apiece. All right, let's do some baseball games here to wrap it up then before we get to the Brewers one. We've got a good slate of games coming up here. Yankees at Cleveland. Give me the Yankees. Reds at Miami. I'll go with the Reds. Padres at the Tigers. I'm going to go with Tigers because you got Jack Flaherty on the mound. Baltimore, Washington. Give me Baltimore. Seattle at Boston. I'll ride with Boston. Philly at the Mets. I'm gonna go with the Phillies. Cardinals at the Braves. Braves got a 7-6 victory yesterday. I'll go Braves. White Sox at the Twins. Give me the Twins. Dodgers at the Cubs again. Well, go Dodgers. We need them. Toronto at Houston. I'll go Houston. Pittsburgh at the Angels. I'm going to go Pittsburgh. Tampa Bay at the Diamondbacks. I'm going to go Diamondbacks. Rangers taking on the Athletics. I'll go with the Rangers. Milwaukee taking on the Giants. Jose Quintana and Jordan Hicks. Give me the Brewers. So, all right. I only got about a minute left here. So, tomorrow will be our last program from inside the studio, the TDS Sports Talk studios in Eau Claire / Altoona. We're on that line right there. But tomorrow will be our last show, and then we're off to Green Bay. For a little draft show coming up on Thursday and Friday, broadcasting from Green Bay Thursday and Friday morning. Please, weather, can you please cooperate? I don't like the forecast coming up here. All right, so please, can we just change it for a couple days and just knock it off? Just saying. But coming up tomorrow, hopefully we're talking about a Bucks win to even up that series. Hope we're talking about a Bucks win too. Maybe the Timberwolves can win, knock out the Lakers, put them down in an 0-2 hole. That would be awesome. We'll do some stock reports coming at you as well. So, and plus more draft talk as we inch closer and closer to the draft. But I'll tell you what, I'll do my, not that you probably care, but I'll do my Packers 7-round mock and my first round mock. I'll put it up in a podcast that'll drop tomorrow before I do it on the air Thursday from Green Bay. DP, Danettes, I think, are off because they're traveling to Green Bay. So their replacements are coming up next. Have a good rest of your Tuesday. We'll be back at it again tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Talk to you then.